Hey folks, how you doing? Dave McRae here. The day today is Monday, March the 12th, 2018. In this video, I just want to sort of talk about the Oscars. And I know the Oscars was about 8 days ago, I think it was, so I'm a little late to the party, but you know, whatever. But I specifically want to talk about the fact that the ratings were down again. And I stand to be corrected, but I believe it was the lowest rated Oscar show in history. And I just find it funny that there seems to be this vibe coming from the Oscars and from those who put on the show and from the Academy in and of themselves that they seem a little perplexed by this.
I just don't get it. I don't get it, man. We had Jimmy Kimmel as the host. Everybody loves Kimmel. I don't get it, you know? Okay, yeah, the show, I guess, was a little long again. I guess we could tighten that up. Yeah, we gotta... That's what it is. It's just too long, man. It's just too long. We gotta tighten that thing up, man. That's what it is.
No, I'll tell you what it is, okay? There's a number of factors, and there's a number of reasons why the Oscars continues to decline. One of them is, yes, okay, maybe it's too long, but I'll be 39 in May, okay? And for as long as I've been alive, or as long as I can remember, the Oscars has been long, okay? It was long last week. It was long, 15 years ago. I mean, this is nothing new. When you watch the Oscars, if you plan on watching the entire show, you got to set aside, 3 hours, right? At least. So yes, could the Oscars benefit from being shorter? 100% absolutely. So I see there being two reasons why the Oscars continues to dip year over year. It's not, necessarily the only two reasons. There are probably a number of factors, and then there are a number of factors, underneath those corresponding with those factors. And it's probably more intricate and more complicated than I'm making it here. But these are two big reasons, okay? The first reason is the day and age that we're living in. Nobody's going to sit and watch a 3-hour show when I can just watch the results on YouTube almost immediately. Okay, and this is continuing to show year after year. Your show is continuing to decline in viewership because people can just watch this shit on YouTube and it's almost immediate. I mean, you can announce Best Actor and within 10 minutes, I'm seeing it on YouTube. And if it's not there, then I certainly can wake up the next morning and see it, right? Not a big deal if I care about actually visually seeing it. If I only care about reading about it, well, I got Twitter, like it's instantaneous, right? If I don't care about watching the show and I just want to know who won from just knowing, like a knowledge sort of standpoint, well, that's instantaneous. I mean, that's immediately on Twitter like that, right? If I care about watching the visual performance in terms of, the Oscar being handed to the actor and the actor's speech and all that kind of stuff, if I care about that, well, I can watch that pretty instantaneously. And if not immediately, certainly the next morning when I get up. So there's no reason now for people to tune into the Oscars on television because that is the only place where you're going to see it. So social media has definitely had a huge impact on the Oscars numbers. The second reason, and this is in no particular order, but the second reason is because nobody has an emotional attachment to the movies that are being nominated and winning. Now, I know you hear me say emotional attachment a lot, but I never say it unless I mean it. And I really mean it here. Not that I don't, in other cases, but I really mean it here because I believe the last time a movie that was in the top 10 at the box office that won Best Picture was in 2004, 14 years ago. Now, I'm not saying that big bona fide blockbusters are the ones that should be nominated and should win. That's not what I'm saying, okay? I've said this 1,000 times before, and I even uploaded a video months ago where I talked about this. Just because a movie makes a lot of money at the box office doesn't necessarily mean it was a good movie. They're not mutually exclusive to one another, okay? What it means is that a lot of people went to see it, but the real question is how many of those people that went to see it actually liked it. That's a whole different question because you can't ask for your money back when you go to see a movie that you didn't like, right? You can't exactly return to the box office and say, well, I didn't like this piece of shit, I want my money back. So even if you hated the movie, even if the vast majority of people that went to see a blockbuster that made a lot of money hated it, your money still goes to the overall outcome of how much money that movie makes. So you cannot look at a movie's box office receipts and say, well, it made a lot lot of money, so therefore it must be a good movie. I'm not suggesting that blockbusters are always good movies. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the blockbuster movies have the marketing campaigns behind them, so people know about them. And today, we're in the superhero age. Now, I'm not a big superhero guy, okay? I mean, I like, you know, your staples, your Batmans, your Spider-Mans, and your Supermans. I will always go and see those films. But I'm not a big superhero guy. But there is no doubt we are in the superhero age, where most of the big bona fide blockbusters are your superhero movies. Those are the movies that people know about. Those are the movies that get asses in the seats. Hypothetically speaking, if those movies were nominated for Best Picture or Best Actor or Best Director or, you know, whatever the case is, hypothetically, would the Oscar viewership go up? Yeah, probably, because now you have an emotional attachment to what you're seeing, and now there's some excitement, right? You tune in. It's like tuning into your favorite sports team. You want to see if it wins. But that's not the age that we're in now when it comes to the Academy Awards. We're into the smaller films that not a lot of people know about, so there's no emotional attachment to it. People don't care about it. And again, that's not to suggest that these films are not worthy of winning or their nominations. I'm just basically saying you can't have your cake and eat it too. So the Oscars have to ask themselves, you know, what kind of awards show do we want to be, right? Who do we want to cater to? Do we want to try and continue to cater to the vast majority of the general public, all the moviegoers out there, right? Everybody who loves movies? Because if we want to try and continue to do that, like we've, you know, supposedly been trying to do ever since the Oscars inception, then we're going to have to start nominating movies again that people have actually seen. And that's kind of a catch-22 because a lot of the movies that we've all seen aren't necessarily worthy of nominations, right? Because again, just because a movie makes a lot of money doesn't mean that it's award-worthy. I'm just saying that because most of the movies that are being nominated in the categories that people really care about, your Best Picture, your Best Actor, your Best Actress, your Best Director, because most of the movies that are sort of nominated in those categories now are smaller sort of maybe art house films or independent films or films that don't have huge marketing campaigns behind them. They're movies a lot of people haven't heard of and more people probably haven't seen because they don't care about seeing them because there's nothing drawing them to the theater. And it's only after they win Best Picture or Best Director or Best Actor or whatever the case is that suddenly there's this little marketing push that you see on TV, you know, or online because now they can attach, you know, award winning behind it that you kind of go, oh, maybe I'll go check that out. But if it's not playing at your local theater, which a lot of these smaller films don't have long runs because they don't get the asses in the seats, you kind of have to wait till it ends up on, you know, VOD or Netflix or, you know, whatever the case is. So, you know, people are not tuning in because they don't have emotional attachment to the players that are playing. They don't know these people. They don't know these movies. They're not going to sit for 3 hours to watch to see who wins when they have no emotional attachment. Okay? Years ago when, you know, it was the blockbusters that were being nominated, right? Your Jaws and your Rocky and your Star Wars and your Braveheart and your, you know, your Avatar, which is not even that long ago. Everybody went to see Avatar. So people wanted to tune in to see if it won or to see if it didn't win because not everybody liked it. I did, of course. Now, so many movies that people don't know about and don't hear about and don't know who's in it, aren't emotionally attached to any of the actors or actresses, or they just don't know them. They're not going to tune in. When your categories are flooded with those films, and again, I'm not saying that those films aren't worthy of that. I'm just saying you can't have your cake and eat it too. When the main categories that people tune into for, right, your big ones, right, when they're flooded with mostly movies that nobody cares about, nobody's going to tune in, right? And the movies that people do care about, your Star Wars, your superhero films, your sci-fi films, they're by and large nominated in the categories of you know, the technical achievement, right? Your best special effects, your best, you know, sound mixing, sound editing, you know, editing, you know, all that, which is very important. But nobody's tuning into the Oscars to see who wins best sound mixing. It doesn't happen, okay? People are tuning in to see who's going to win best actress, actor, supporting actress, director, Best Picture, and maybe Best Cinematographer. But that, I think, would be on the lowest. I think only hardcore movie fans would really appreciate that. But the average moviegoer doesn't care. So folks, those are two reasons. I'm not saying those are the only reasons, but those are two big reasons why people are just not tuning into the show anymore. You have to make the average moviegoer care about the Oscars, because that's your audience. Your audience is not hardcore movie fans or, people who work in the industry. Those are not. That's by and large not your audience. Your audience is the average moviegoer. But you're going to have to do something. If you want to continue to nominate, smaller independent or even just, smaller production films, that's great. I'm all for that. As an independent filmmaker, I'm totally on board with that. But you can't have your cake and eat it too. Then the Oscars will have to evolve from a spectacle into something maybe a bit smaller, something that I know they don't want to do. And they think that the Oscars, everybody should be tuning into the Oscars. Well, yeah. And 30 years ago, 20 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago, people were. But now they're not. And you have to evolve. And will a shorter runtime of the show help? Yes, it would help, absolutely. How you configure that, I don't know. One of the things you could do is take the lesser categories, and I'm not saying that they're less important. I'm talking about from a viewership standpoint, okay? Because nobody is tuning in to see, best foreign film or best short animated foreign film or, all that kind of stuff, other than those maybe who, have, some sort of invested interest in the category, those who worked on the film that were nominated, or maybe somebody who was nominated and all that kind of shit, right? But the vast majority of the movie-going viewership doesn't tune into the Oscars to watch those. So instead of getting rid of those, because I don't think you should, I mean, they're very important, but maybe you sort of move them over to a separate, event or a separate non-televised ceremony. It's just sort of a ceremony that happens in Hollywood on a Tuesday night, and it's, something that, it's a black tie event or whatever the case is. And maybe you only have the big show, right? Your big spectacle show, with the main 6 or 7 categories. And the show is maybe 90 minutes long with a couple of musical performances and a couple of maybe, paying, honorary respect to those who died, or maybe, an honorary Academy Award, or, whatever the case is. And the show ends up being about 90 minutes. Maybe that's what you do. And maybe if you try that one year, maybe people will tune into that, despite the fact that they don't really know the movies, or maybe the vast majority of the movies they're unfamiliar with. They might actually tune in for that because all the big awards are all sort of one right after another. So they can tune in and really enjoy, that moment of seeing who wins, because it's more exciting and more enticing for them. I don't know. There's a lot of things that you can do, but the Oscars has to evolve, because to continue to have a 3-hour show and to continue to nominate films that nobody, by and large, again, I'm not saying that you haven't, and you hear me say by and large a lot, or generally speaking a lot, but it's because a lot of people who watch my videos take what I'm saying literally and can't read between the lines. So I often have to say by and large, so people go, oh, he's talking generally. Okay? That's for you guys, not for me. Not all of you, but a lot of you be like, no, it's like, yeah, I know that. I didn't mean literally everybody. Okay? So they're going to have to continue to evolve if they want to be successful. The Academy Award show may have to evolve into something smaller but tighter and more compact. And ironically, in doing that, you might actually lift its prominence again and lift its impact in the entertainment industry again, if you were to do that. For the foreseeable future, I see the sort of smaller films being nominated, which I think is great. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. And you have to understand that those who are in charge of the Oscars, those in the Academy who are in charge of this show have to start to realize that, you know what, we got to evolve here, or at least we have to try something different. We can't, guys. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting different results, right? So you are continuing to decline for basically the reasons that I have said. And if you do not change that, or at least try something vastly different one year, there's nothing to suggest that next year's award show will be less. You know, it was 26.5 million viewers this year. There's nothing that makes me think that next year won't be 19.8. I mean, there's nothing like you have to evolve. You have to change. It's 2018, guys. The world is different. And I agree. I love the romance of the Oscars, the mystique of the Oscars. You know, it's exciting, and I know you don't want to use that nostalgia about, you know, the entertainment and movies and the awards and the glitter and the glam, but if you don't evolve into something more modern and current, but still keeping that tradition there, yeah, I just don't know where it's going to go. Anyways, folks, my name's Dave McRae. Comment below and let me know your thoughts. Did you guys tune into the Oscars? I tuned into the last maybe half hour because I wanted to see again if The Shape of Water won, because it was shot right here in Toronto and most of the crew was Canadian. So I was really excited to see that it won. But comment below and let me know your thoughts. If you guys want to follow me on Facebook, you can at facebook.com/manythingsdavemcrae. McRae is MCRAE. Facebook.com/manythingsdavemcrae. You can follow me there in the meantime and in between time when I'm not shooting videos and posting them on here. That's where I tend to post. So comment below and let me know. I will talk to you guys soon. All right. Cheers.